Hi, everyone. I'm Councilmember Paul Krekorian, and it's my honor to be able to represent the eastern part of the San Fernando Valley. And I wanted to take some time on this show to talk about what kinds of opportunities there are for artists in our community to get through these very difficult times that we're experiencing together during the COVID-19 crisis. Los Angeles is a place, of course, that is home to some of the most famous, most influential and powerful artists on earth. And we have become a center for some of the most important arts and cultural movements anywhere on earth. And at the same time, we have countless people who live here, many of whom live in my district and throughout the city, who make their living from the arts, maybe are not well known, but nonetheless contribute so significantly to the cultural fabric that makes Los Angeles such a special and unique place. And by extension, they contribute so much to the fabric of the United States of America. And for those who are working in the arts right now, COVID-19 has had a especially damaging impact. This has been a crisis that's affected all parts of our economy. But in a situation where performing arts venues have essentially been completely shuttered, where people have not been able to gather together in any real way, that has disproportionately affected those who work in the arts. And so on this show, what I'd like to do is talk to some of the real experts in Southern California on the arts and cultural institutions that make this such a special place. Some of the great, these are three of the great advocates for the arts and for culture in the city. And they're going to be providing us with a lot of really useful information. If you are an artist, if you support an arts organization and you're really worried right now, hopefully we'll be providing you with information that'll help you be less worried and help you to flourish during these very difficult times. So I'm pleased to introduce now the panel of speakers that we have with us. Gustavo Herrera is the Executive Director of Arts for LA. Danielle Brazel is the General Manager of the City of Los Angeles' Department of Cultural Affairs. And Kristen Sakota is the Director of the Los Angeles County Department of Arts and Culture. Welcome to the three of you. I'm delighted to have you with us to be able to share your expertise and insights today. So I'd like to start first, if I can, with Gustavo, because every year, usually in the first week or so of April, we have Arts Day in LA. And Arts for LA organizes hundreds and hundreds of artists to come to City Hall, and we in City Hall get to interact with the arts community and really get an appreciation for how diverse and widespread and how many different genres of arts there are, and how many people there are who are impacted, who make their living in one way or the other from arts and culture. And it's a really impactful day when we see City Hall's council chambers packed with artists and other people who are working in the cultural industries. And so if I can, just to start this discussion off, if you can talk for a moment, Gustavo, about how important the arts are in Los Angeles as a part of our economy, and how important our organizations are, our arts organizations, in keeping it all together.
Absolutely, and Councilmember Krekorian, thank you so much for the invitation to be a part of this conversation with my amazing colleagues in the field. And I also thank you for shouting out Arts Day, because I will share with you, putting together Arts Day is a massive undertaking, but it really is the event that happens every single year that brings together all of the different representatives of the arts and culture field. It re-energizes the field. It's always amazing to be in front of council and being able to interact with council and see council's personal stories that they share as relate to art. it's just a wonderful experience. So thank you for shouting that out. And just to offer a little bit of context and respond to your question, the arts in this is a creative capital, and the artists and arts cultural organizations, they are a huge part of both the local and the state economy. The sector, just so that we get a sense, generates about $203.2 billion in annual output. And I think this is the number that really sticks with me. Really, 1 in 6 jobs in the Los Angeles region are somehow connected to the creative field. And so this is why I think when we think about our advocacy work at Arts for LA, we think about it from arts education. It really starts in the classrooms. And how do we continue that work into positioning these students into the careers, because these are the jobs that are available in the region. And so it is absolutely an essential part of the Los Angeles economy. And I think you hit the nail right on the head that the field in this moment is very challenged. And Arts for LA is really trying to do everything that we can to be of support.
Well, and I appreciate, of course, the advocacy that Arts for LA has always demonstrated. Arts needs a voice in the chambers of power, and Arts for LA has certainly served that. But in those chambers of power, we also have 2 extraordinary in-house advocates, both in city government and in county government, in Kristen and Danielle. And I would like to kick it to you, Danielle, if I could, to talk to us a little bit about some of the impacts that you've already observed that some of our arts organizations are going through, and individual artists. And maybe you can move from that, and we can hear from both you and Kristen about what are the programs that may be available to help people get through these difficult times.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to work with you, Councilmember, and we've had the great pleasure of working with you since you were a school board member in Burbank and such a champion of arts education before you headed up to the state. So your work as an arts advocate yourself has been something that that's really actually been keeping me going as well. You know, culture, in a sense, was the first to get shut down as part of COVID-19, as part of the stay-at-home orders. And it is very much the Achilles heel of what makes Los Angeles such an extraordinary place to live and work. We are fueled by culture in everything we do. And as Gustavo mentioned, you know, of course, 1 in 6 jobs is directly related to creativity, production, whether that's on the commercial side or on the nonprofit side, shut down effectively. But artists have never stopped working, and artists understand that this is a critical moment, that they must continue to work, they must continue to create and inspire. They are indeed emergency responders to this crisis. And what we've seen is the insatiable desire for art and culture and poetry to help us get through this moment. This is a trifecta pandemic. Of course, it's a public health crisis. It's an economic crisis. And in many ways, it's a social reckoning. And so we get to reimagine radically what kind of city and what kind of community we want to live in and what we want to prioritize. And what we're hearing from people is that, you know, we want an inclusive a city where all voices matter. For the Department of Cultural Affairs, we are the local arts agency for the city of Los Angeles. There are 88 other cities in the county. We work closely with our counterparts at the County Department of Arts and Culture in Quistosakota. But what we did is we pivoted as quickly as we could. We launched a COVID-19 artist relief program. We pivoted all of our community art centers into online classes. So think, Barnsdall Art Park or Watts Towers Art Center or Sun Valley Youth Art Center. All of those classes went online into hybrid modes. We worked with the council office, your office, to institute a pretty remarkable program utilizing and redistributing public art fees to help ensure that theaters in Council District 2 would have some immediate relief. And so we're very, very proud of that work. But now we're getting into the long haul. And this is really gonna, we need radical interventions to help ensure that the creative sector can weather the COVID storm. The nonprofit sector, most of the grantees that we support operate below $250,000 a year. They have little to no cash reserves, and they have no way of monetizing their resources. We've seen the entertainment union step up. The Actors Fund is doing great work in distributing funds for artists. So I encourage anybody that's a performing artist to also look at the Actors Fund. You don't need to be a member of any one union. My partner is actually a commercial set decorator. She's on the board of Local 44. So they've done some intervention work to help crafts. We know that we need to get production back up and running, but we also know that we got to do it safely. We have just announced next year's grants guidelines. So I would encourage everybody to go to culturala.org and look at the grants guidelines and get in on one of our upcoming webinars. And then next week, not next year, sorry, can't get too far in the future. We're going to be releasing another COVID-19 emergency response program specifically for artists. So check back with us there. I'll stop here and pass it on. Back to you, Councilmember.
Well, that's terrific. It's terrific news about next week. So how do people find out more about having access to that program?
culturela.org. Visit us, follow us, and as soon as those guidelines will be released, we'll be distributing them far and wide. And we also work really closely with all of the communication directors of all council offices. And your office has just been stellar at including messages from the Department of Cultural Affairs and pushing that out to your constituency.
Well, thank you. And Kristen, the county, of course, plays a monumentally important role in the culture of Southern California. Some of the biggest and most important performing arts venues, some of our magnificent museums, all are part of the county arts world and would not exist without the county's support. Can you talk a little bit about what the impact has been on those mega organizations, and what has that done to impact working artists throughout Los Angeles?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Councilmember, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and be part of this important conversation. So the Los Angeles County frame, of course, as I'm sure all of the viewers know, is the entire county region comprised of 88 municipalities, including the city of Los Angeles, and more than 100 unincorporated areas. So that's 4,000 square miles, more than 10 million people, and really a robust and extremely diverse and extraordinary place. It's true in terms of arts and culture that it's also an extremely diverse and extraordinary place, as one of my colleagues said earlier, the creative capital of the world, and that's both the commercial sector and the nonprofit arts sector. So we see really within the role that we play a broad and varied jurisdiction. The county in its cultural portfolio has county-owned venues such as LACMA, the LA County Museum of Art, the Music Center, the Hollywood Bowl, the amazing Ford Theater, La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, as well as the Natural History Museum. And so in those entities, of course, as Danielle said, all of the arts, and in particular venues, performing arts, theaters, were shut down even before health orders happened. And so those have been closed and affecting hundreds of creative workers, affecting performances, and of course affecting those individual nonprofit partners that help operate those venues. But in addition to that portfolio, the Department of Arts and Culture that I lead provides leadership, grants, and support to the broader arts and cultural field in the county, as well as playing a role in policy and program. And so through our longstanding grant programs, such as the Organizational Grant Program, also known as OGP, which we've been doing for decades, we support more than 400 different nonprofit arts organizations of every artistic discipline all throughout the county. And I want to echo something that Danielle said. The Los Angeles region is really comprised of so many micro, small, and mid-sized organizations. We see in our work more than 90% of our grantees are of budgets of 5 million and less, and so many of them are actually of budgets of 200,000 and under. And so we see a real vulnerability in the nonprofit sector as not having necessarily having access to the capital, really having some organizations with fixed cost, like having a ownership of a facility or a theater, having employees. And so in the data that we've been looking at, we're seeing this hit. We've seen, of course, almost all events and performances have been canceled. We have seen more than 30% of organizations in the region furloughing or having to lay off staff. We have seen 40% reporting that they are not confident they can survive COVID-19 if, relief is not on the way. And with all that, so many of them, 80%, are still reporting that they are still actively making art. They are still trying to reach so many of our youth and students who are dislocated from schools through virtual presentations, arts education, even if they're not getting paid for it. So the arts are essential. And what we have done is we first had to pivot and quickly ensure that our grants and programs could accelerate those payments. We changed our professional development opportunities to be online, and we had to shift the timing of our flagship LA County Arts Internship Program that we run as a companion to the Getty Arts Internship Program, one of the largest paid arts internship programs in the country. And shifting all of our work, our arts education programs as well that we do for justice-involved youth and communities, repurposing justice dollars, all of that work had to try to shift to virtual as well. And now I think this is such an important moment because, as my colleague said, this is not ending. This is really a moment that is not only going to be a marathon, but also a moment of transformation. And in the disruption and in the crises that we've seen, we do see opportunities to come through this and have our field think about how can we be stronger on the other side? How can we place equity, cultural equity, and racial equity at the center of all we do? So in that, we've provided resources on our website. There's a digital resource center that we've been aggregating all kinds of relief funds for individual artists, for arts organizations that are available here locally in Los Angeles, and some that are national. And I am proud to say that the Board of Supervisors just approved our latest grant awards. So our organizational grant program and our community impact arts grant, those awards and dollars will be flowing soon because they just awarded those grants and approved our slate. And last but not least for this moment, I will just share, I'm so pleased to share, we're able to secure a $10 million fund from the CARES Act that will be part of the county's Small Business Assistance Fund. But this $10 million fund will be dedicated to supporting economic relief for our hard-hit nonprofit arts sector. So I'll leave it there for now and happy to talk more.
Well, that is terrific news. And so for that CARES Act money, I assume that that's primarily intended for the smaller institutions that really depend upon that sort of grant to stay open, to pay the rent for the next month, and to keep people employed. So how would they go about getting in line to apply for that funding? What's the process?
Sure. So the process and the program guidelines are being developed now. This is sort of fresh off the press, was just approved this Tuesday, so just this week. But we just sent out an announcement. And so those guidelines will be coming soon, and you can check our website at lacountyarts.org for more information that will be coming soon.
And can individuals and organizations sign up for updates on your website so that they'll be informed about those things as they come online?
Yes. Yes, great idea. Absolutely. You can sign up for updates. You can sign up for our newsletter as well.
Terrific. Well, we touched upon the subject of social justice and equity and how that impacts where we are now in the arts and cultural world. And one of the concerns that I have is both Kristen and Danielle, you both mentioned that so many of our arts organizations are the much smaller ones. They're not the Getty, they're not the LA Opera, but they're the $200,000 a year budget organization that really from month to month has to worry about whether they're going to be able to pay their bills, even in normal times. And my concern is that during these times when venues are shuttered, when people are having to maybe not devote as much time to their craft, their art, because they have to go and find another way to pay their personal rent, that this is going to disproportionately hurt communities of color and communities that right now are already not getting enough investment in arts and culture, especially around these very sort of local kind of organizations. So is that a concern? And if so, what are we as a city and county government doing to try to address those concerns? Danielle? Oh, Danielle, you're muted. There we go.
Sorry. I'm so moving into the virtual world that I forget I have to unmute. I think that your question is really what we're deeply grappling with. As you know, the Department of Cultural Affairs is funded primarily through tourist tax. It's reimbursable to the general fund. So we are at the center of the Department of Cultural Affairs is cultural equity. We are created to support the sector and to deliver cultural services specifically in communities where there may not be a nonprofit. So we are in a sense the city's cultural equity strategy. We are the belonging strategy for the city, and we believe deeply in it. We think that there are some opportunities, and we did submit a request to the COVID-19 committee for CARES Act distribution to support what the county is doing. 10 million is a great number. We know that that is not going to be remotely enough. There's over 2,500 nonprofit arts and cultural organizations. And again, with the majority of them being under $250,000, that they are our most fragile. And if we lose our cultural infrastructure, it will take decades for us to rebuild it, and it will actually impact our ability to recover as a city and to accelerate that recovery. So as we think about racial and cultural equity and economic recovery and radical imagination, arts, culture, and creativity are the accelerator of those phenomenal values that it is now the time to double down on it. And I am hopeful that, if we are successful in securing and supporting the county, that actually would be in an alignment with what Kristen and I have been working with a pooled fund, with other funders such as the Getty and Parsons and the Music Man Foundation to expand private philanthropy for the arts, which we've actually seen on the decline for the past 10 years.
Kristen, additional thoughts about how we can pay special attention to try to provide more help where it's most needed in achieving our social justice goals for arts and culture?
Absolutely. I want to echo the fact that arts are essential to who we are as human beings, but they also play a vital role in our economic development, in our human development, in our community development. And arts are themselves intrinsically valuable. What you see on the stage, we have hundreds of museums, fabulous performing arts venues, but they're also really vital to our well-being as individuals and communities. So when we invest in a community through the arts, we are investing in the well-being of that community. So just like any other sector, just like any other form of investment, we need to see greater equity. We need to see greater access, greater inclusion. And at this point in time, we know that cultural equity, so the idea that all different kinds of artistic and cultural expression will be treated fairly, equitably, will have equitable representation, is critical in this moment. And that in that work, racial equity will be critical in that moment. I want to speak to just a few things that are happening at sort of a policy level that undergird these shifts and are really supporting this moment of opportunity. So for us in the county, our department, we lead the LA County Cultural Equity and Inclusion Initiative, and that's an initiative that has been catalytic in the field, and we've seen several of the 13 recommendations funded by the leadership of our board and our advisory committee in the field, and we're working to do the rest of those 13. And a couple that just came forward, the county approved a countywide cultural policy, the first of its kind, that affirms arts and culture and lays the groundwork for increasing investments, including equity investments in arts and culture, affirming the role of the arts across sectors. So the arts as part of mental health, as part of education, as part of diplomacy, as part of the built environment, and the role of the arts in diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So we're excited to bring forward this new and bold vision and really lay the groundwork for that vision for the coming years, for not only the county, but really for all our region. And I'll just say, the county, as well as I know folks in the city, as well elected officials, are really moving to meet this moment. We also have seen recently the board approve the goals of a plan we submitted to elevate the role of the arts in criminal justice reform. And so what that is usually arts-based solutions and repurposing justice dollars to support creative youth development in communities hardest hit by justice, which of course we know are disproportionately Black and Latino communities of color, low-income communities as well. And lastly, I'll just say Supervisor Ridley Thomas also brought forward a motion that was unanimously adopted, moving the county toward an anti-racist policy agenda. So we've seen everything from Supervisor Solis bringing forward cultural policy to Ridley Thomas and Kuehl. They've all really been playing a role supporting this work and undergirding this broader shift that my colleagues like Danielle and Gustavo have mentioned are so right to say the arts are part of this moment. The arts are part of investing in our communities and uplifting all of our communities, and especially with a focus on racial equity and our communities of color that are actually our majority of our region,
Right.
but thus far have really faced systemic oppression.
Well, Gustavo, that brings me to you because government obviously doesn't act in a vacuum, and decisions aren't made over at the County Board of Supervisors or at LA City Council or in the mayor's office or in any other level of government just out of the blue. They are usually driven by advocacy, and the arts community has been a very strong and vocal advocate for itself over the years, certainly over the years that I've been in City Council. But sometimes maybe some of the smaller organizations that don't have the large membership base, that don't have the ability to do outreach, may not have as loud of a voice. So as we discuss these ideas of inclusion, of being broadly inclusive across every corner of our city, and including every community in the discussion, what advice do you have as one of our great arts advocates and advocacy organizations? What advice do you have for people who care about the arts in general and specifically care about their favorite organization or their neighborhood theater or their local dance troupe or some organization that they particularly care about. How can they best organize? How can they best make their voice heard so that we ensure that every part of Los Angeles is included in this dialogue?
What an amazing question. So I think first thing, to all the viewers and to really all of the listeners here, sign up for arts4la.org because we are your regional arts and culture advocacy organization. And as I hear my colleagues Danielle and Kristen share of the progress that we've made, it's important that we shine light on all of the arts organizations, all of the artists, all of the arts advocates in Los Angeles who are taking action in this moment. Back in March 20th or so, 7 days after the Safer at Home directive, Arts for LA launched what we call the Creativity in Crises campaign. And this campaign was calling for including artists and arts organizations in relief and recovery funds. It was calling for private philanthropy to pool funds. It was calling for flexibility in the utilization of current grant dollars, protections for independent contract workers who represent about 50% of Southern California's creative workers, and many other things. And it's important to share with you, Councilmember, that we launched that campaign, and there were about 1,000 signatures to that campaign in a very short sprint of time, representing over 300 arts and culture organizations across all different sectors who signed on in support and in advocacy. And I think that, we have seen leadership step up in this moment, including yourself, Councilmember. And I do want to thank you for the effort that you made to repurpose those private development dollars for the theater community, specifically in your district. I think that was an extraordinary example of leadership, and we just deeply, deeply value it. I know the community values it. I want to also share with you that, I feel as if though this moment, and as Danielle called it, a trifecta moment, I 100% agree with that. I think it's really unearthing in a lot of the structural inequities in the field. It's exacerbating a lot of the things that were already challenges within the field. And it's really speeding it up. And so I just want to emphasize that part of what our community is so concerned about right now is really one of the things that Danielle brought up, which is around funding for the Department of Cultural Affairs. We know that it's largely dependent on the TOT or the hotel bed tax. And we also know that 90% of tourism is down. And that's a huge concern because there are hundreds of organizations that are reliant on partnership with the DCA and their incredible team. And we're just so concerned that we can already foresee a huge challenge there. And we really do need an intervention in this moment, and would greatly, I think, appreciate your support and leadership in that regard. But to the community, follow Arts for LA. And we are blasting out action alerts. Often our team, and a quick shout out to Casey and Cordelia and Aubrey on our team, are working around the clock on the weekends, whatever it takes to ensure that we're being responsive to the challenge of this moment. And so we encourage folks to sign up and take those actions with us.
Well, thank you. And maybe shifting a little bit from crisis to opportunity. We're in an era now when, at least for the foreseeable future, young people in Los Angeles are going to have to get by with digital learning and won't be able to be back in school. I know that a lot of families are looking for ways to enrich that process with other sorts of cultural and artistic influences that they can bring to their kids. and the Los Angeles Public Library offers many such programs. I wonder if you, and by the way, a few of you have mentioned the theater program that we launched, and I thank you for that mention. One of the conditions that we put on those grants was that those theater institutions would do a public performance. It could be a digital performance, or it could be a real live performance once we get out of this. And we also tried to encourage them to bring school-age children into this process for master classes and other sorts of things like that, so that the benefit is spread widely across our community. And I wonder if any of you can offer any thoughts about places that artists might be able to go in order to help with that, to supply that sort of, to ply their art and their talents in a way that benefits families and communities that are looking for that content, looking for things to do. What opportunities might there be that are new? Danielle, you're muted again.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. So like the County Department of Arts and Culture, the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs also created a DCA at Home, where we have a plethora of arts programming classes. We have over 30 centers, community art centers throughout the city. And we have put most of those classes online. You can learn how to tap dance. You can learn how to do collage. You can, do haikus and poetry. We have a list of grantees that also are doing a tremendous amount of online programming. And we developed a pretty phenomenal partnership with KCET on a new program called Southland Sessions. And if you go to Southland Sessions at kcet.org, you will find rich digital content as well. And the Southland Sessions airs every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. On PBS, and you can also get that live, on demand as well. And I would say that cultural programming is education. It just is. Art is education. And if you are engaged in art making, and we often put art up at this kind of very high level of, on the podium, but art is what we do as human beings. Creativity, whether you, knit at home or you dance in your kitchen while you're baking bread, this is the moment where we're actually reconnecting with what makes us human beings. And this gives me, as we move into the hope moment, this is where I actually think that let's find the silver lining in this. Let's find the silver lining of being with our children in concentrated creative spaces and with our family members. And let's start to pass down the stories and the cultural traditions that we may not have always had so much time to be able to do when we were so busy running from meeting to meeting and work to work. So check us out at DCA at Home, and then also check out PBS SoCal at Southland Sessions.
It's interesting because 20 years ago, I guess, or so ago, when there was a lot of the rise of file sharing came up, it was seen as the end of the music recording industry. And the industry pivoted off of that, found ways to still be able to monetize their product. And at the same time, that online use of or acquisition of music gave a lot of artists an opportunity that they never would have had before under the traditional model. And in the same way now, it seems like there are avenues by which artists who might not ever have found a way to get to the public can now do so readily, because we're all living in this digitally focused world because we're socially distanced right now. Kristen, any thoughts from the county's perspective about how artists can take advantage of this moment?
Sure. Happy to just add a few additional things. So as Danielle mentioned, we also have in our Digital Resource Center on our website, experiences at home and create at home. So an inventory of various arts organizations, various information for both educators and families who want to create at home. I've also really enjoyed working with Danielle and our colleagues at KCET to help support and develop the Southland Sessions show. So giving another thumbs up for that, and you can check that out, the fabulous episode showcasing the diverse artists that are Los Angeles, and really also viewing that as a platform for furthering the virtual and broadcast performances, work, and talks that artists are doing now. I also want to encourage artists to go to our website, LA County Arts, because we have a number of artist rosters that you can sign up for and mailing lists for opportunities. So we have a teaching artist roster through our arts education division. And I want to just pick up a word on arts education and say that coming later, we expect this fall, we will be bringing forward a new policy document, a new regional blueprint for arts education for LA County. And this really builds on the last 10 to 15 years of work, of working with the Arts Ed Collective public-private partnership with funders and us and the LA County Office of Education to look at ensuring access to arts, creative learning, STEAM education, which really is proven to help students, help youth, have families, and have career access. So look for that coming this fall. Sign up for our teaching artist roster. And in addition, we have a civic art team that commissions artists for civic art projects. You can sign up for our mailing list and get access to the projects coming online. We are working on developing an additional database that will be open for all artists, but right now you can already sign up for our lists to learn about other opportunities coming forward for all kinds of artists all over the county.
Terrific. And because we can't do it often enough, give us that website again, please, where people can go.
LACountyArts.org.
Very good. So as long as we're talking about some of these big changes and potential opportunities, as some of our leading thinkers on arts policy and other issues relating to culture in Los Angeles, how do each of you envision the future of the arts in Los Angeles as we're going forward? It's obviously concerning when I've heard several of you say that many institutions may not survive this COVID crisis, and we're going to have casualties. We are going to lose some organizations. We are going to have people leave the industry. There may be opportunities, but it is going to be a very different cultural landscape, I suspect, as we go forward. So I'd like to hear some of your thoughts about what you think the future might hold and how we can best prepare for it. Gustavo?
I can jump in here. And Councilmember, I think you had asked about. I just want to quickly also share for artist opportunities, and this is on the last question, but there you can also log on to Arts for LA, and we have a couple of tabs there. One that lists artist opportunities and job opportunities for artists, and so want to make sure that for artists who are viewing that they know that that's there and available. You know, I think this moment, as I mentioned earlier, is really unearthing a lot of the structural inequities and exacerbating a lot of the challenges that have been part of the arts and culture community. And what I'm hopeful about is, and to your point, Councilmember, that industries find ways to innovate. I think artists are frontline innovators. Arts organizations are frontline innovators. And so I'm excited to see where this moment takes the field, because this is right in our faces. and I think that there is no avoiding it. And so I'm excited to see where both artists and arts organizations, where our community takes this. I will share that, you know, we talk a lot about reimagination in this moment and the need to reimagine. And Arts for LA is organizing a series of that we call community strategy sessions that will happen in September. And there will be very, very focused conversations on art that bring the arts and culture field together to talk about an issue that you care a lot about, arts education. We'll talk about jobs in the creative sector. We'll talk about affordable space, and we'll also talk about funding. These sessions are really an opportunity for the community to come together and re-envision, reimagine together for the future. And that will really lay forth what the platform and the priorities look like for Arts for LA and for our creative community. But I do also just want to share that just artists in this very challenging moment have been, and art has really been essential. And I just want to emphasize that the arts are essential. They've been essential to helping us feel connected in a moment that can make us feel very disconnected and just very challenged from so many different respects. And it really has been that glue that helps keep us moving and pushing forward together. And I'm very excited about that.
Well, that is such a good point. And, you know, as you were saying that, I was thinking about the Great Depression and how there was this explosion of the most incredible art in all genres that came out of the Great Depression in this country. And yes, a lot of that was because it was financed by the WPA, because President Roosevelt saw the value in doing that. But I think it was also because of that common experience that we had nationally that needed art even more at that time of distress. And so it created this tremendous opportunity for the arts to bloom. And I hope we'll seize that moment now to have a similar kind of experience. Kristen?
Well,
sorry, Danielle.
I would love just to jump in because you actually helped us during the budget process this year by allocating and restoring $100,000 for the mural program. And our public art team has done an extraordinary job taking a WPA approach to public art commissions over the next year. We fully intend to keep public art commissions moving forward. The money is encumbered and the RFPs have been issued. We've got over 147 new mural artists that are ready to go. And we have, every time there's a public building, there's an opportunity to do a percent per our project. And what our team has done is to create, to stretch out those commissions so that we can commission more artists and keep more artists working in the city of Los Angeles. You know, Gustavo is absolutely right. Artists are the innovators. And we know that this sector is going to innovate. We want to do everything we can to help shepherd it and to help support it. I was so pleased that our Department of Neighborhood Empowerment just did an extraordinary survey. And one of the top 3 priorities for neighborhood councils was arts and culture and creativity. So we know that this is actually a value in the city of Los Angeles, and the Department of Cultural Affairs remains ever committed to keeping the wheels of creativity moving through our public art commissions.
Well, you're right, and I'm working very closely with my neighborhood councils, for example, on a street box art program across the district. Mm-hmm. So we have these incredible artists who are coming and creating public art that hopefully will be enriching to neighborhoods for many years to come. And it helps them to get by a little bit during these difficult times too, because there's some stipends available. So it's something that's important in the neighborhood councils, to community identity, helps the artists, and helps the broader community by creating more public art. Kristen, what are your thoughts about the future as we're looking at it, as we stand on this precipice?
Well, one thing that everyone is really saying, I think deserves to be reiterated, and that is that the arts are and must be a part of our shared recovery, resilience, and way forward to reimagine a better future. And that includes everything from not only this moment of relief and crisis response, but recovery, creative works, right? Artists and the creative workforce have such transformative power, but also is part of our jobs and well-being and hope. And so ensuring that they are in the mix, that those projects can come forward, that is going to not only benefit the sector, but really benefit us all. And I'll just add a couple of ways that we're looking at that sort of WPA model, and some amazing artists, Councilmember, as you're mentioning that, came out of that time. Everyone from Jackson Pollock to Carrie James Marshall. So in addition to that being government-sponsored work and recognition of artists' work as work and benefiting, it actually seeded the careers of amazing, diverse, and brilliant artists. And so we hope to do the same. So one of the things we're doing is we have a program where we place artists with county departments, creative strategists, artists in residence. And so they have been working to help us seed transformative change through various departments. We're also looking at artists as creative messengers for important messages at this time. We're collaborating with the County Human Relations Commission on an anti-hate initiative called LA versus Hate that has begun now, because we have seen hate crimes have been increasing under the last few years of this current federal administration. And so we're highlighting the 211 number as the phone number for people to call if they have an incident. And coming soon, the Women's Centennial and voting, we've commissioned through our civic art team, original art, posters and images that you'll be seeing out there that folks can download, print, that will be on library cards to celebrate the vote. So that's one of the ways we're thinking about that kind of WPA model. And I want to just give one last shout to, so many of our leaders, whether they be a city council, whether they be the county board of supervisors, who just this week voted to increase our longstanding grants program, frankly, the first increase of this kind in more than a decade, so that over the next few years, we're not going to turn away from the arts. We need to be doubling down on the power of the arts. And for all the artists out there, I just encourage you to stay creative. I'm not worried people aren't going to create art. We will absolutely create art, but our job is to support you. Seek opportunities that you can, advocate for the arts, and we need everybody. We need folks to be board members. We need folks to be advocates. We need folks to consume art, participate in art, so that it's really a robust moment of integrating the arts into our lives.
Well, terrific. Thank you all for your insights and your leadership. As we kind of bring this to a close, and Kristen kind of anticipated my question, I'd like to ask each of you to take a few moments to offer your advice to the artist who's out there watching this program and who's worried about the future, worried about whether they'll be able to continue their commitment to their creative endeavors. What practical or philosophical advice would you offer to the artist who's watching at home right now? Gustavo, do you want to start us off?
I'll start, yeah. Get active. Get active. There's a lot of work that is happening advocating for artists and arts organizations at all different levels, whether it's the local and regional work that we're doing here, or the state work that Californians for the Arts and California Alliance for Arts Education, the federal work with AFTA, Americans for the Arts. There's so many vehicles to get active. And I think one of the things that we see council members, that the challenges that artists feel are experiencing today are the challenges that all Angelenos are experiencing right now, with concern about losing their home, housing insecurity. In this moment, there's food insecurity challenges. Folks are losing health care, and there's just really great coalition work that's happening in this moment. The Healthy LA Coalition is doing incredible work. There's just a ton of work that's happening in this moment, and just encourage artists to find that cause and those organizations that are really that really speak to them, and to get active in the work.
Well, and it's an important point about people's concerns outside of art as well. They're practical, day-to-day economic concerns that everyone is sharing in right now. And there are tremendous lists of resources that are available on the mayor's website. On my website at paulkrekorian.org, we have a COVID-19 resources list that's available for people. Our work source centers that we have around the city are available to help people get through this time. So it's important that we remember that people, and you said it a moment ago, Kristen, that work in the arts is still work. And people sometimes who aren't in the arts forget that people have to make a living as well. So in these tough times, there are resources out there that will help people. We need more, but they are out there if people are able to find them. That's why these resource lists are so important. Danielle, thoughts about advice that you would give to our viewers?
Don't lose hope. We need you. And you have a unique, and I'm speaking to the artists, you have a unique gift, and we need you to shine your light and get it out to as many people as possible. This is not going to end anytime soon. This is an unprecedented moment. So what is it that you want to grow? What is it that you want to nurture and till that soil? Know that your city government is working hard, and we need you as advocates. We need your voice. Your council needs your voice as well, so that they can make the decisions that really serve you. But I will say that don't lose hope, and be very proactive in seeking the resources. Go to culturala.org. As the councilman said, go to the workforce centers. Keep dialing EDD. And then also, you are a small business. As an artist, you're a small business. So think of yourself also as a small business, and check out the economic development workforce department, because they also have small business loans, micro loans, and micro grants. So utilize all of your innovation, and don't give up. Don't you give up, because we absolutely need you, and we're going to need you during the crisis, and we're going to absolutely need you to help us get through the crisis and recover from the crisis. And thank you for your work.
Good advice for all of us. Thank you. Kristen, any final thoughts of advice that you would give to our viewers?
Hard to top that. I wholeheartedly agree. We need all of your voices that contribute to the world, no matter whether you have been shown professionally, whether you're just starting, whether you're an experienced artist, whether you're an artist of color, or someone who feels they have been marginalized. We need your voices, your expression. Your work uplifts, it tells stories, it connects us to one another, it teaches, it heals, and so we absolutely need this work. Some of the greatest endeavors really of humankind happen in the arts and creative sectors. So I agree with that. I also agree absolutely there are opportunities out there. There are relief grants out there. The city county actually jointly have a regional COVID relief fund. So if you're a micro entrepreneur or a small business or a nonprofit in the arts, you can seek that relief as well. And of course, take care of yourself. We know that this is actually a really challenging time for all of us. The amount of devastation, the changes and uncertainty in the world And so do what you need to take care of your own well-being so that you can help be part of the community that heals, part of the community that is part of our collective strength, resiliency, and a better tomorrow.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. This has been very uplifting to talk to all of you, and we're all benefiting from your passion and your insights, and so I appreciate all of you being with us. And I agree with all of you that as we go through this unprecedented time as a community, city government and our county government as well are deeply committed to ensuring that our artistic community continues to be able to thrive now and in the future despite these challenges. And that's not entirely altruistic. We need the arts. I am not an artist, but I need arts and culture in Los Angeles. Everyone in Los Angeles needs arts and culture in Los Angeles. And now more than ever, in a time when we all need to be uplifted, it is the arts that will do that. And so I'm so grateful to all of you for your commitment to the arts, and to the viewers at home who are watching this. Thank you for your work. Know that your city and county government are here to serve you and to help you. And if you have further questions, if you need help with any of the government programs that have been mentioned today, by all means, feel free to contact my office, your own council member, your own supervisor, or the mayor's office. We are here to assist you and to serve you. So with that, I thank you all for being with us, and thank you all for sharing this brief moment in time for this webinar on resources for artists. I'm Paul Krekorian. Thank you very much.